And now we get ready to speak with our doctors, Tim McKnight and Mike Jakubowski. Welcome in. Today's topic is stress and the musculoskeletal system. I can barely spell that, so we're going to be off to a good start. But musculoskeletal system, that's my whole body, right?
That is.
Okay.
Hopefully you've got muscles everywhere.
Well, few too many some places and not enough others, I guess.
Well, we all struggle with that. So. Yeah, so stress, I like this word because it's really an imbalance in forces, and stress can be physical, chemical, or emotional, and they can all affect the health of our body. And, a couple of weeks ago, we talked on the air, I think messed up my arm, and it was all swollen and bruised, and I couldn't bend it. That was obviously a stress on the body because there was an injury, and there was acute inflammation to help me to heal that. But what I noticed after about 2 weeks of not really being able to bend my arm is that there was another stress starting to take over, and it was the stress of inactivity. And by not forcing myself to gently get that motion back, it was becoming stiffer and stiffer. Just like if you break your arm and you have to wear a cast, and you take the cast off in 6 weeks and your arm doesn't want to straighten out. Mm-hmm. Same kind of things can happen. So we can have stress just from inactivity. So it's an imbalance of forces. But one of the things we talk about in Fit for Life are the chemical stresses. And again, there's this yin and yang in the body. There's oxidants and antioxidants. And oxidants cause us to age and cause inflammation, but our immune system uses oxidants to kill bacteria. So there's a good portion of oxidation that helps us heal. But antioxidation, which is antioxidants, that helps the body heal from all these chemical stresses. But then it's the physical stresses every day, the poor posture, the prolonged sitting, putting your body or a joint in one position longer than it should be without straightening it, causes significant stress on the joints, and that's where we start to see people come in with neck pain, shoulder pain, back pain. And we have to help people understand that there's more to it than just getting out of the pain, that we really have to teach them to understand why they got that way, mm-hmm. and how they can be empowered to fix that, because there's only so much we can do. There's only so many anti-inflammatories I can prescribe. There's only so many treatments that Dr. Jakubowski can do, and usually they're very effective. But if the people don't continue to do these things that we're helping them with, and they continue to stress those joints or the musculoskeletal system, the problems recur over and over again.
It's only going to get worse, too.
It won't get better unless you address the root cause, and that's why I think we work so well together. I try to address the biochemical causes. Dr. Jakubowski has a great understanding of the physical, mechanical issues. I mean, he's a step above me in the mechanical side of it, but it's really helpful when you start to identify the problem and then address it. But it's the continuation of doing those things to keep the stress off the joints that a lot of people forget to do after they feel better.
So as we hand it off, I mean, where do you see stress?
Yeah, so and that's the biggest thing I see in my office, and what I try to tackle is physical stress. We have ergonomics of just posture and being at work, and if you work in a factory, is pulling a lever all day and using the same muscles day in and day out, which we've talked on the show quite a bit, is mm-hmm. that continued stress on the muscle just with physical activity. But what I also see in the office is emotional stress. And people will say, boy, I was stressed at work, and all of a sudden I feel these muscles tighten across my neck and my back, and I get this headache, and, I'm just sitting there, and it's just the stress of activity. And we see this in our daily lives. I mean, we all have been through that emotional stress to where you're like, you get a bunch of texts from a bunch of people, and they're stressing you out, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you just get angry about it. And that stress comes out. And initially, your stress results of your body is, how do I fight this off? You have hormone release. You have something in your body called cortisol, which helps reduce inflammation. It's that fight or flight, when we get that pump going and we just feel so strong and we just want to go tackle the world. But if we have that chronic emotional stress, like Dr. McKnight said, there's a balance. If we have too much of one hormone and it's there for long periods of time, it has negative effects on us. And that's what we see with cortisol. Cortisol and stress is a huge thing. Dr. McKnight will provide a steroid cortisone or whatever that helps reduce inflammation. We've all heard of that. But too much of it, too prolonged of it, it creates inflammation. It breaks down muscle tissue. It breaks down bone tissue. People have osteoporosis. All that stress relates to our body. So I think it's important. Yeah, I can tackle the physical, mechanical part, but people also do a part to get that mental stress, find out what that mental stress is causing them. And like Dr. McKnight and I in the gym is a huge way to tackle that thing. We talk as we work out, and we talk about the stresses in our lives. And there was one time in the gym we were talking about very stressful things that was going in our lives, and I was ramping him up talking about it, and he got so fired up again because of that fight or flight. That cortisol was released, and I bet you he did 30 pull-ups, and I've never seen him do that before.
He really was pushing buttons.
Yeah,
but
he's
like
what?
drill
After
sergeant.
he did that, he felt better, I think.
Yeah, I did.
He exercised, and he made a balance to his body. But the problem is if we don't, again, get to that emotional stress, whatever it is, that fight or flight, those hormones stay in our body, and then they start having that negative effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting because I talked about this, did a presentation over the weekend to a group, and people might not understand this. When we talk about emotions, people think, oh, those are feelings, this whatever a feeling is. Well, actually, there are chemicals for every emotion. There's a neurotransmitter for every emotion that we have. So if you spill your coffee, you can immediately go to, this always happens to me, it's going to be a bad day. Bad things happen to me. The next thing you know, you bump into the doorway, and bad things continue to happen. But just that one emotion of victimization has a neurotransmitter. And when you start feeling that emotion, see, it's going to happen again. It spilled the coffee, ran into the door, bumped my head. Now this guy's going to pull out on the street in front of me and almost hit me. Over and over again, that's a neurotransmitter that bathes every cell of your body and affects the chemistry of those cells. And the cells feel stressed, and the cells go into a stress response. And what's the life of an emotion? It's 90 seconds. 90 seconds is how long it takes those neurotransmitters to flood our cells, for our cells to say, okay, I got your signal, go, now leave us alone. If you stop thinking those thoughts and feeling those emotions, that goes away quickly. But in the gym last week, I was talking about things that were stressing me out. And after the next set, I was still talking about it, and I was getting more and more ramped up. So now the adrenaline, the cortisol's going, and now I have this big surge of energy. But it does help to be able to talk about your emotions and get rid of that stuff. And it helps to use that energy for the physical release, because at the end of the workout, I was emotionally better and physically felt strong and like I'd done something right. But again, these stresses on the body, like you said, when you're stressed, you tend to shrug your shoulders, your neck goes forward, your muscles tense up, and you can feel that tension. It's tension headaches, it's back pain. It's all the things that he's talking about.
Yeah, and if you have a sensitive area anyway, you've had a prior injury to your back or neck or whatnot, and people don't understand, like, why does it go to this when I'm stressed, emotionally stressed? Why does it go to this part of my back? Or, and it basically means, like, boy, when you're stressed, these muscles tighten up, like you said, and it's just a hormone response in your body that causes that thing. And it goes to your most sensitive areas, and you have a problem area there. Yeah, I could correct all the mechanics, but it's super important, really important to just find those emotional stresses in your life and how do you combat those. And exercise is a huge part of that again. And it's just that fight or flight, that we deal with, and that chronic stress plays a role into it. And inflammation is a huge part of that. Inflammation in our joints, it breaks down tissue. When we have that hormone response, it releases more sugar into our bodies. That helps us use it for energy. That's that initial response. But when we have the chronic stress, you have chronic sugar in your body. It has, if you're diabetic, and we know diabetics, their joints break down more, their muscles break down more, and you're stressed. It's just this overall health issue that we have to look at. So it's not that, boy, I just need to get out of pain. My back hurts. I'm going to go to the chiropractor. He'll adjust me. I feel better, but then it comes back. And then, okay, we need to look at those other things in our lives. Is it our boss, giving us a problem? Is it just family issues? Is it whatever? We all have these stresses. The kids, getting them to sports, running them around. Our lives are so busy. We got a war in Ukraine that, people are dying, all these things people think about. you got to combat, and the ways to do it is look at the overall picture and not just rely on Dr. McKnight to give a pill, or me to adjust somebody. It's just eating healthy, figuring out all those other things.
Where's the balance? Somebody comes in, they want a pill, and the next guy comes in, me, and I don't want a pill. I want to work out. So how do you figure out what to do?
Well, sometimes a short term, my goal is to get them out of pain to quiet the inflammation down, so that when they see Dr. Jakubowski, he can really work the muscles. If you've pulled your back out, or you're in a lot of pain, you're not going to want to go be manipulated by a chiropractor when you're in acute pain. You've got to get some control over that.
Yeah.
So a steroid taper often works really well. But in the old days, you throw your back out and they say, well, get a back brace and just stay on the couch for 4 or 5 days till it gets better. Well, that's another stress. And when muscles don't move, they tighten up and the joints get stiff. Just like an ankle brace after you sprain an ankle, an air cast, I think that's the worst treatment there is. If there's nothing broken in that ankle, don't splint it, don't immobilize it, because it'll get stiffer.
Yeah.
You have more inflammation and swelling. And everybody who's gone through that knows that. So it's also about restoring mechanics and helping the body do the things it's supposed to do. It's unnatural for us to not be able to lift our hand up over our head. But some people have bursitis and they can't, and then it freezes and they get a frozen shoulder. That's not natural. We need to fix those things when they begin to occur, not just let them happen and say, well, this is what happens when you get old. I personally don't accept that. I think we need to be moving and active and have good anatomy and good mechanics our entire life, or we'll pay a price.
Yeah, and
For sure.
I think the key here is, and with this talk is, we can incorporate medicines to help. That's great. We can incorporate what I do to help. That's awesome. It's great. But we got to look at our lives and what we're doing every day, and how do I help promote health in my body by eating right, figuring out that emotional stress, and exercising, and getting those things that are bad in our lives out of there as best as we can.
So I need to control what I can control. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah,
and
let-
we'll help
let
you
the
get
rest
to the other part of it.
Sure. Yeah, let the rest go. It's hard to do, but that's what we should all do.
All right. Well, thanks. Thanks for coming in. We just saved people a lot of fees from hearing.
It's going to be a slow day in the office for both of us now, right?
Well, we hope for at least one day. So, hey, thanks a lot, guys, and appreciate that so
You're
much
welcome.
as we talk with the docs this morning.